Sky turned orange that morning. Not the soft orange of sunrise, but the burning orange of warning. Captain Taewon Park stood on the roof of the Earth Defense Force headquarters, looking up with narrowed eyes. 3 massive ships hung in the sky. They were shaped like arrowheads and glowed with a strange blue light. They had appeared 2 hours ago without warning. "Captain, the general wants you in the command room now," shouted a young soldier, his face pale with fear. Taewon took one last look at the alien ships and nodded. He ran down the stairs, his heart beating fast in his chest. After years of training for this moment, first contact had finally happened. But not in the peaceful way they had hoped. The command room was filled with people running back and forth. Screens on the wall showed the alien ships from different angles. General Do-Yeon Kang stood in the center, her face serious as she spoke to world leaders on a video call. "Yes, Mr. President. They have not responded to any of our messages yet. We are keeping all weapons offline to show we are peaceful." She noticed Taewon and waved him over. "Captain Park is here now. He will lead the first contact team if they agree to meet." Taewon stood straight and nodded to the faces on the screen. "I've studied all possible first contact scenarios. My team is ready." A young woman with short black hair rushed into the room. "General, we're getting a signal from the alien ships." The room went quiet. General Do-Yeon pointed to the main screen. "Put it through, Lieutenant Ha-eun." The screen flickered, then showed a creature that made everyone gasp. It looked almost like a tall human, but with gray-blue skin and large, completely black eyes. Strange patterns of light moved under its skin. When it spoke, its mouth didn't match the words they heard. "People of Earth, we are the Viridian Collective. Your world has resources we need. We have been watching you for some time. We come with superior technology and power. Resistance would be unwise." General Do-Yeon stepped forward. "This is General Do-Yeon Kang of the Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful visitors, but we cannot allow anyone to take our resources without agreement. We suggest a meeting to discuss how we might help each other." The alien tilted its head. "Very well. We will send a small ship to your largest military base in 1 hour. You may bring 5 representatives." The screen went black. The president spoke up. "General, is this wise? We know nothing about them." "If they wanted to attack, they would have done so already," Taewon said. "This is our chance to learn about them and show we are not afraid." General Do-Yeon nodded. "Captain Park will lead the team. Dr. Sunmi Choi, our top scientist. Professor Junho Kim, our language expert. Lieutenant Ha-eun Lee for security, and myself." 1 hour later, they stood on the landing pad, watching as a small blue ship descended from the sky. It made no sound as it landed, not even a whisper of wind. A door slid open and 3 Viridians stepped out. The tallest one spoke. "I am Commander Vex of the Viridian Collective. These are my science and security officers." Taewon stepped forward. "I am Captain Taewon Park. Welcome to Earth." He introduced his team. Commander Vex looked around. "Your security is primitive. You have projectile weapons." He pointed to the soldiers standing guard nearby with rifles. "We stopped using such simple tools 1,000 years ago." Taewon kept his face calm, though he felt a flash of anger. "We have found them effective for our needs." "Perhaps against each other," the Viridian said, with what sounded like amusement. "Please, show us your command center. We wish to understand your capabilities." General Do-Yeon hesitated, but then nodded. "This way." As they walked through the base, the Viridians looked at everything with what seemed like mild interest. They stopped at the weapons display, where examples of Earth's military technology were shown. The Viridian science officer touched a missile. "Interesting. Chemical propellants and simple explosive charges." He looked at a tank model. "Metal armor and a projectile cannon. How historical." The Viridians spoke to each other in their own language. Taewon couldn't understand the words, but their tone was clear. They were laughing. Commander Vex turned to General Do-Yeon. "We have scanned your entire planet. We know you have nuclear weapons and some basic energy weapons in development. None of these would even dent our shields. We prefer to solve problems through talking, not fighting," Professor Junho said quickly. A wise choice, Commander Vex replied. Here is what we offer. We will take the resources we need, mainly your rare metals and 20% of your water. In return, we will not harm your population. We will be done in 1 Earth year. Dr. Sunmi stepped forward. That would cause major damage to our ecosystems and economies. We cannot agree to that. The Viridian commander made a gesture with his hand. Suddenly, all the lights in the building went out. A moment later, they came back on. That was just a small demonstration, he said. We shut down your power with a simple energy pulse. We could do much more. Taewon noticed Lieutenant Ha-eun's hand moving toward her gun. He gave her a small shake of his head. Not yet. We need time to discuss this with our world leaders, General Doyon said firmly. You have 1 day, Commander Vex replied. Then, we begin taking what we need with or without your agreement. After the Viridians left, the emergency meeting lasted for hours. World leaders argued over screens. Some wanted to fight, others to give in. Their technology is far beyond ours, the Chinese president said. We should agree to their terms to avoid destruction. We cannot give up without a fight, the Russian leader argued. We have weapons they may not know about. Taewon had been quiet, thinking. Finally, he spoke. The Viridians believe they know all about our weapons. They scanned our planet and saw our missiles, tanks, and guns. They think they know what we can do. General Doyon looked at him. But they don't know everything, do they, Captain? Taewon shook his head. No, they don't know about Project Thunderstrike. That's just a prototype, someone objected. It hasn't even been tested in real conditions. It's our only chance, Taewon said. The Viridians laughed at our primitive weapons because they're looking for things like their own technology. They expect energy weapons and force fields. Project Thunderstrike is completely different. General Doyon stood up. Captain Park is right. While the Viridians were busy laughing at our missiles and tanks, they missed what's hiding underground. She turned to the world leaders. We need your permission to activate Project Thunderstrike. One by one, the leaders nodded. As Taewon left the meeting room, Lieutenant Ha-eun walked beside him. Do you think it will work, Captain? Can we really fight them? Taewon thought about the laughing aliens, so sure of their power. They made one big mistake, Lieutenant. They showed us that they think they know everything about us, and that's going to be their downfall. He looked up at the alien ships hanging in the sky. They should have remembered that when an enemy laughs at your weapons, it's sometimes because they don't understand them. Morning came with a red sky. The 3 Viridian ships had moved during the night. They now hung over major cities, New York, Beijing, and Moscow. Smaller ships had left the big ones and were flying around Earth, scanning the ground below. In the underground bunker of the Earth Defense Force, Captain Taewon Park had not slept. He stood in front of a large screen showing the location of all Viridian ships. Next to him, Dr. Sunmi Choi pointed to several spots on the map. They are most interested in these areas, she said. Places with lots of rare metals and large bodies of water. General Doyon nodded. Just as we thought, they're preparing to take what they want. A door slid open and Professor Jun-ho entered with Lieutenant Ha-eun. They both looked tired but determined. The world leaders have all agreed, Jun-ho said. They've given us permission to use Project Thunderstrike if the Viridians don't leave peacefully. Taewon checked his watch. We have 4 hours until their deadline. Then let's get to work, General Doyon said. Lieutenant Ha-eun, take us to Project Thunderstrike. They took a special elevator that went deep underground. It moved fast, and Taewon felt his ears pop as they descended nearly a mile below the surface. When the doors opened, they stepped into a large cave that had been turned into a high-tech facility. Hundreds of engineers and soldiers worked at computer stations. In the center of the cave stood something covered by a large tarp. Welcome to humanity's best-kept secret, Lieutenant Ha-eun said with pride. She walked to the center and pulled off the tarp. Under it was what looked like a large cannon, but unlike any weapon Taewon had seen before. Instead of a barrel, it had rings of metal that got smaller toward the front. Blue lights pulsed along its sides. This is the heap driver, Dr. Sunmi explained. Hyper-electromagnetic accelerated projectile. It uses powerful magnets to shoot a small bullet at incredible speed. How fast? Asked Professor Junho. About 15% of the speed of light, Dr. Sunmi said. Taewon whistled. That's very fast. The Viridian's shields are designed to stop energy weapons and slow projectiles, Lieutenant Ha-Yun said. They've never seen anything like this. The HFY bullet will hit their ships before their shields can react. How many of these do we have? General Do-yeon asked. Just 3, Dr. Sunmi admitted. 1 here in Korea, 1 in the United States, and 1 in Russia. We've been building them in secret for 5 years. 3 shots against their fleet, Taewon said quietly. We need to make them count. A soldier ran up to them. General, the Viridians are calling again. They want to talk. Back in the command room, Commander Vex's face filled the main screen. He looked annoyed. Your time is almost up, the Viridian said. Have you decided to cooperate? General Do-yeon stepped forward. We have a counter-offer. Leave our planet now and we won't have to use force. The Viridian made a sound like breaking glass. Taewon realized he was laughing. Use force? With what? Your simple rockets? Your nuclear bombs? Commander Vex shook his head. We've studied. All your weapons. None can touch our ships. Perhaps you missed something in your study, Taewon suggested. The Viridian turned to look at him. Impossible. Our scans see all technology. You have nothing that can harm us. He leaned closer to the screen. But I admire your spirit, so I will give you one more chance. We will take only 15% of your water instead of 20%. General Do-yeon's face showed no emotion. That is not acceptable. This is our final warning. Leave Earth now. Commander Vex's black eyes narrowed. Then you leave us no choice. We begin extraction now. Try not to interfere, or we will be forced to remove some of your cities. The screen went dark. They're moving, Lieutenant Ha-Eun reported, pointing to the map. The ships are positioning themselves over the oceans and major mining areas. General Do-yeon turned to Taewon. Captain, you have tactical command of Project Thunderstrike. Choose your targets carefully. Taewon studied the map. The 3 main Viridian ships had spread out. Smaller ships were descending toward Earth's surface. We need to hit their command ship first, he decided. The one over Beijing. That's where Commander Vex is. Then the 2 ships that are preparing to extract water from the Pacific and Atlantic. Why not the smaller ships? Professor Junho asked. Without the big ships, the small ones can't leave Earth, Dr. Sunmi explained. They'll be stranded. Taewon nodded. Exactly. We take out their command and their way home. Then we can deal with the rest. General Do-yeon pressed a button on the console. All heap drivers, this is General Do-yeon. Prepare to fire on my command. Target data is being sent now. Deep underground in 3 countries, teams of engineers powered up the massive weapons. The heap drivers hummed with energy, the rings beginning to glow bright blue. In the command room, Taewon watched as the target locks were confirmed one by one. Korea heap driver ready, Lieutenant Ha-Eun reported. United States heap driver ready. Russia heap driver ready. General Do-yeon looked at Taewon. Captain, when you're ready. Taewon took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide Earth's future. If the heap drivers failed, the Viridians would surely destroy major cities in revenge. But if they did nothing, Earth would lose its resources and maybe its freedom. Fire, he said. 3 buttons were pressed at the same time in 3 different countries. Deep underground, the heap drivers unleashed their power. 3 small bullets, each no bigger than a marble, shot through underground tunnels and into the sky. They moved so fast that no human eye could see them. In less than a second, they crossed the distance to their targets. On the command screen, Taewon watched as the bullet from Korea hit the Viridian command ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a small hole appeared in the ship's side. Pamyuang, hole grew larger, and then the entire ship began to break apart from the inside. Similar explosions erupted in the other 2 main ships. The Viridian vessels, which had seemed so powerful and untouchable, were coming apart in the sky. Direct hits. On all targets, Lieutenant Ha-Eun shouted. The heap drivers worked. The room erupted in cheers, but Taiwan kept his eyes on the screen. The smaller Viridian ships were now flying in confused patterns. Without their command ship, they didn't know what to do. The screen suddenly lit up with an incoming call. It wasn't Commander Vex this time, but another Viridian. This one looked younger and very afraid. What did you do?" the Viridian asked. "What kind of weapon can penetrate our shields?" General Doyon stepped forward. "One you didn't think to look for. One you thought was too primitive to be a threat. We have more," Taiwan added, even though it wasn't true, many more, ready to fire at all your remaining ships. The Viridian's face showed clear fear. We wish to discuss terms of surrender." Taiwan and General Doyon exchanged looks of surprise and relief. "Very well," General Doyon said. "Call off your remaining ships, then we'll talk." As the Viridian nodded and the screen went dark, Lieutenant Hayun turned to Taiwan. "They're not laughing at our weapons anymore, are they, Captain?" Taiwan allowed himself a small smile. "No, they're not." The sky over Earth was filled with falling debris. Pieces of the 3 main Viridian ships burned as they entered the atmosphere. Fighter jets flew around the larger chunks, shooting missiles to break them into smaller pieces that would burn up before hitting the ground. In the command center, Captain Taiwan Park watched the cleanup operation on the main screen. It had been 6 hours since they fired the heap drivers. The remaining Viridian ships, about 20 smaller vessels, had gathered in one spot over the Pacific Ocean. "They're staying in tight formation," Lieutenant Hayun said, pointing to the screen, "and they've raised their shields to maximum power." "They're scared," Taiwan replied. "They don't know how many heap drivers we have." General Doyon entered the room with Professor Junho and Dr. Sunmi. They had been talking with world leaders about what to do next. "What's the status of our heap drivers?" General Doyon asked. Dr. Sunmi shook her head. "Not good. The power systems were experimental. All 3 are burned out after that one shot. It will take weeks to repair them." Taiwan frowned. "So we have no more shots left?" "None," Dr. Sunmi confirmed. "But the Viridians don't know that." Professor Junho smiled. "Exactly. They think we have many more. That's why they want to talk." "The Viridians are asking for a meeting," General Doyon explained. "A real peace talk this time, not like before. They want to meet in 1 hour on their main remaining ship." "It could be a trap," Lieutenant Hayun warned. "It could be," General Doyon agreed. "But we need to end this without more fighting if possible. Captain Park, I want you to lead our team again." Taiwan nodded. "Yes, General." 1 hour later, Taiwan, Dr. Sunmi, and Professor Junho boarded a military helicopter. It rose into the sky and flew toward the hovering Viridian ships. "Remember," Taiwan said to his team, "they must not know we have no more heap drivers ready. Let them think we can hit them at any time." As they approached the Viridian ships, a small door opened in the side of one vessel. The helicopter landed carefully inside a large metal room. When the door closed behind them, lights came on around them. 3 Viridians stood waiting. They were led by a shorter alien who wore a different type of suit than Commander Vex had worn. "I am Sub-Commander Taral," the Viridian said. "Thank you for coming." Taiwan stepped forward. "I am Captain Taiwan Park. This is Dr. Sunmi Choi and Professor Junho Kim." Sub-Commander Taral led them through long hallways to a round room with a table in the center. They all sat down. "Your weapon," the Viridian began. "It moved through our shields as if they weren't there. How is this possible?" Dr. Sunmi smiled politely. "I'm sure you understand that we can't share our military technology." The Viridian made a sound like a sigh. "Of course, but you must understand our surprise. No species we have met in the last 1,000 years has had technology that could harm our ships. Perhaps you should have looked more carefully at our primitive weapons," Taiwan suggested. Sub-Commander Taral's skin rippled with changing colors, which Taiwan guessed showed emotion. "Yes, that was our mistake. We assumed because your technology looked simple it was not dangerous." The alien looked directly at Taiwan. A mistake we will not make again. So what happens now? Professor Junho asked. We have lost our command ship and our two main resource vessels. The Viridian explained. We cannot complete our mission. We wish to leave your system peacefully. Taewon leaned forward. And never return? That would be difficult to promise. Sub-Commander Toral admitted. Our homeworld needs resources. We have been gathering them from many systems for centuries. Then we have a problem, Taewon said firmly. Because we will not allow you to take our resources. Not now. Not ever. Dr. Sunmi touched Taewon's arm. Perhaps there's another solution. What if we could help you find resources elsewhere? Or trade for what you need? The Viridian's head tilted. Trade? What could you offer that we would want? Technology, Professor Junho suggested. You've seen one example of what we can do. We have other ideas that might be new to you. Interesting. The alien seemed to think for a moment. What would you want in return? Knowledge, Dr. Sunmi said quickly. About space travel, about other worlds and species. We are just beginning to explore beyond our system. Before the Viridian could answer, a loud alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed in the room. What's happening? Taewon demanded. Sub-Commander Toral stood up quickly. We are being attacked. They ran to a nearby window. Outside, Taewon could see Earth military jets flying toward the Viridian ships. Missiles were already hitting the shields, causing them to glow bright blue. This is not our doing, Taewon insisted. We came to talk peace. The Russian and Chinese military leaders, Professor Junho said quietly. They must have decided to attack while the ships are vulnerable. Taewon pulled out his radio. General Doyon, the jets are attacking the Viridian ships. You need to stop them. General Doyon's voice came through with static. I'm trying, Captain. But some countries aren't following orders. They want to finish off the aliens while they have the chance. The ship shook as more missiles hit the shields. Your weapons cannot harm us, Sub-Commander Toral said. But Taewon noticed the alien's voice was not as confident as before. Not our normal weapons, Taewon agreed. But what about our heap drivers? Do you want to take that chance? The Viridian's skin turned a pale blue. You would use them on us? While you are on board? Taewon looked at Dr. Sunmi and Professor Junho. They both nodded slightly. If we must, Taewon said firmly. To protect Earth. The ship shook again. Harder this time. Shield integrity at 82% and falling, announced a voice over the ship's speakers. Sub-Commander Toral moved quickly to a control panel and pressed several buttons. All ships cease defense preparations, the alien ordered. Power down weapons. Then, the Viridian turned to Taewon. Call off your attack. I will speak with my people about a real agreement. No resources taken without permission. Fair trade only. Taewon used his radio again. General Doyon, get those jets to back off. We have a chance for real peace here. It took 30 tense minutes, but finally the jets moved away. The alarm stopped and the red lights turned off. Sub-Commander Toral's skin returned to its normal color. That was close. Too close, Taewon agreed. But now we understand each other better. You know we can hurt you. We know you are willing to talk. Yes, the Viridian said. Let us return to our discussion. For the next 2 hours, they talked about what a peace agreement might look like. The Viridians would leave Earth, but could return later to trade. In exchange for certain metals they needed, they would share knowledge about space travel and other worlds. As they finished their meeting, Sub-Commander Toral walked them back to their helicopter. One question, Captain, the alien said quietly. How many of those weapons do you really have? Taewon smiled. Enough. The Viridian made that sound like breaking glass again, laughing. A good answer. I think our peoples may get along after all. As the helicopter lifted off and flew back toward Earth, Dr. Sunmi turned to Taewon. Do you think they'll keep their word? She asked. I don't know, Taewon admitted. But they'll never laugh at our weapons again. Professor Junho looked out the window at the Viridian ships. And we have time now. Time to build more heap drivers. Time to prepare, just in case they come back. With different ideas, Taewon nodded. Next time we'll be ready. 2 weeks had passed since the meeting with Sub-Commander Toral. The Viridian ship still hovered over the Pacific Ocean, but they had made no aggressive moves. Teams of human scientists and Viridian engineers were meeting daily, exchanging information. As part of the new peace agreement, Captain Taewon Park sat in a small office at Earth Defense Force headquarters, reading reports from these meetings. Dr. Sunmi entered, carrying a tablet. "Good news," she said, smiling. "The Viridians have shared their star maps with us. They show over 200 systems they've visited. This will help our space program for years to come." Taewon nodded, but his face remained serious. "And what have we given them in return?" "Basic information about our metals and mining techniques. Nothing that gives away our real technological secrets." Lieutenant Ha-un knocked on the door and entered without waiting for an answer. "Captain, you need to see this." She placed a folder on his desk. Inside were satellite photos of the Viridian ships. In several images, small objects could be seen, leaving the ships and entering Earth's atmosphere. "What are these?" Taewon asked, frowning. "We don't know," Ha-un replied. "They're too small to be ships, maybe probes or drones. They're landing in remote areas, deserts, mountains, deep forests." Taewon stood up quickly. "How many?" "We've tracked 50 so far, but there could be more." Dr. Sunmi looked worried. "The agreement said they would not send anything to Earth without telling us first." Taewon picked up his phone. "Get me General Do-yeon and find Professor Junho. We need to talk to the Viridians now." 2 hours later, they stood in a meeting room, facing Sub-Commander Toral on a video screen. The Viridian appeared calm, but Taewon noticed a slight change in the alien's skin color. "We have detected objects entering our atmosphere from your ships," Taewon said, getting straight to the point. "This violates our agreement." "A misunderstanding," Sub-Commander Toral replied smoothly. "These are simply data collection devices. They help us study your planet's geology to better understand which resources might be useful for future trade." "Then why hide them?" General Do-yeon asked. "Why not tell us about them first?" "We did not think it was important enough to mention," the Viridian said. "They are harmless." Professor Junho stepped forward. "We would like to examine one of these devices to confirm they are harmless." The Viridian hesitated for a moment. "Of course, I will send you the location of one near your facility." After the call ended, Taewon turned to the others. "I don't trust this. Those devices could be anything: weapons, communication relays, terraforming tools. We need to find one before they tell us where to look," Dr. Sunmi suggested. "They might show us a different type than what they're actually sending down." Lieutenant Ha-un nodded. "I have the coordinates of a landing site in the mountains about 30 miles from here. We could send a team now." "Do it," General Do-yeon ordered. "Captain Park, you lead the mission." 3 hours later, Taewon was in a military jeep with Lieutenant Ha-un and 4 soldiers, driving up a narrow mountain road. They had left their phones and radios behind, taking only basic equipment that couldn't be tracked easily. "The satellite showed it landing in a clearing near the top," Ha-un said, checking a paper map. "We're almost there." They parked the jeep and continued on foot. The forest was quiet except for the sound of birds and the wind in the trees. Taewon led the way, moving carefully through the underbrush. Finally, they reached a small clearing. In the center was a metal object about the size of a microwave oven. It had already dug into the ground, with only its top part showing. "Stay back," Taewon warned. "It might have defenses." One of the soldiers used a drone to fly closer. The small camera showed that the object was sending thin metal tendrils deep into the soil. "It's doing something to the ground," Ha-un observed. Dr. Sunmi's voice came through their secure radio. "Can you get a soil sample from near it? But be careful not to touch the device." A soldier moved forward with a collection kit. He carefully dug up some soil about 3 feet from the alien object and sealed it in a container. Suddenly, the device made a high-pitched sound. The top part began to glow red. "Everyone back!" Taewon shouted. They ran for cover behind large rocks. The devices glow grew brighter, then faded. When they looked again, the object had sunk completely into the ground, leaving no trace. It knows we found it, Hyun said, and now it's hiding. Or doing whatever it was sent here to do, Tae-won added grimly. Back at the base, Dr. Sun-mi analyzed the soil sample in her lab. Her face grew more concerned as she worked. This is not good, she said to Tae-won and General Do-yeon. The soil contains tiny machines, nanobots, billions of them. What do they do? Tae-won asked. They're programmed to find and attach to certain metals, gold, silver, platinum, all the rare metals the Viridians said they needed. General Do-yeon's eyes narrowed. So they're still trying to take our resources, just in a way we wouldn't notice. It's worse than that, Dr. Sun-mi continued. These nanobots don't just find the metals, they change them at the molecular level. They're turning our resources into something else. Into what? Tae-won asked. I'm not sure yet. But whatever it is, it's not natural to Earth. Professor Junho, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. They're terraforming, changing Earth to be more like their world. The room went silent as they all realized what this meant. The Viridians hadn't given up on taking Earth's resources. They had just found a sneakier way to do it. We need to confront them, Lieutenant Haoun said angrily. Not yet, Tae-won replied. If we tell them what we know, they might attack before we're ready. He turned to Dr. Sun-mi. Can you find a way to stop these nanobots? She nodded slowly. I think so, but I need time. How long before the nanobots cause serious damage? General Do-yeon asked. At the current rate, maybe 3 days, Dr. Sun-mi estimated. They multiply as they work. Tae-won looked at each person in the room. Then we have 3 days to prepare. Lieutenant Hyun, I want teams ready to find and destroy every one of those devices. Professor Junho, keep talking to the Viridians. Make them think we still trust them. And the heap drivers? General Do-yeon asked. How close are we to getting them working again? Tae-won asked. The teams have been working around the clock, General Do-yeon said. The Korean one might be ready in 2 days. The others will take longer. Tae-won nodded. Then we need to be ready in 2 days, and this time we can't miss. As they left the meeting, Lieutenant Hyun walked beside Tae-won. The Viridians lied to us, she said quietly. All this talk of peace and trade was just to buy time. Yes, Tae-won agreed, but they made one big mistake. What's that? Tae-won's face was grim but determined. They underestimated us. Again. The next 2 days passed in a blur of activity. Teams of soldiers searched mountains, forests, and deserts, finding and destroying Viridian devices. Dr. Sun-mi worked without sleep, developing a way to stop the nanobots that were already in the soil. Captain Tae-won Park stood in the underground bunker, watching engineers make final repairs to the heap driver. The massive weapon had been damaged after its first and only firing. Now they were racing to get it working again. How much longer? He asked the lead engineer. 6 hours, maybe less, the woman replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. The power systems are almost ready. Lieutenant Hyun entered the room, her face tense. Captain, the Viridians are calling. They want to speak with you. Tae-won followed, her to the command center. On the main screen was Sub-Commander Toral, but the Viridian looked different. Its skin was darker now, with more patterns of light moving beneath the surface. Captain Park, the alien said, we have noticed your teams moving around the planet, and our devices are being destroyed. Why are you breaking our agreement? Tae-won kept his face calm. Why are you releasing nanobots to change our planet's metals? That breaks our agreement too. The Viridian skin flashed with bright colors. So you found out? Impressive. Most species never notice until it's too late. We are not most species, Tae-won replied. No, you are not. The alien's voice had changed, becoming colder. You have surprised us twice now. There will not be a third time. What do you mean? We have called in reinforcements. 3 more Viridian fleet ships will arrive tomorrow. Then we will take what we need, with or without your permission. Professor Junho, who was standing nearby, stepped forward. But we had an agreement. We were trading information, helping each other. That was never real, Sub-Commander Toral said. It was simply to keep you calm while our nanobots did their work. If they had succeeded, we would have taken your resources without a fight. Now we must do this the hard way. The screen went dark. General Doyan turned to Taiwan. 3 more fleet ships, each one as big as those we destroyed before. And we have only 1 heap driver almost ready, Lieutenant Hayun added. Not 3. Taiwan thought for a moment. We need to make them think we have more. Just like before. Dr. Sunmi entered the room, looking tired but excited. I've done it. I found a way to stop the nanobots. We can send a signal that disrupts their programming. They'll shut down. Start using it immediately, General Doyan ordered, and get every country to build signal towers. We need to cover the whole planet. What about the Viridian reinforcements? Professor Junho asked. They'll be here tomorrow. Taiwan walked to the map of Earth displayed on a wall screen. We have 1 heap driver and 1 shot. We need to make it count. The Korean heap driver can't hit ships in space, Dr. Sunmi explained. It can only hit targets in low orbit or the atmosphere. Then we need to bring them closer, Taiwan said. We need to make them think they've won, so they come in close to finish the job. Throughout the night, the team worked on their plan. The heap driver was finally repaired. Dr. Sunmi's nanobot killing signal was being broadcast from towers around the world, and a special message was prepared for the Viridians. The next morning, 3 huge Viridian ships appeared in the sky, joining the smaller vessels already there. They were even bigger than the first ships that had come to Earth. In the command center, Taiwan watched them on the screen. They're staying high in orbit, too far for our heap driver to reach. Send the message, General Doyan ordered. Lieutenant Hayun pressed a button. Message sent. On the screen, the Viridian ships began to move. They were coming closer to Earth, moving into positions above major cities. They got our surrender message, Taiwan said. They think we're giving up. But we included 1 condition, Professor Junho added, that their leader comes to accept our surrender in person to show respect. The screen lit up with an incoming call. A new Viridian appeared, bigger than Sub-Commander Toral with skin that glowed with power. I am High Commander Vextor of the Viridian Collective, the alien announced. I have received your surrender. It is acceptable. Thank you, High Commander, General Doyan said, bowing her head slightly. We ask only that you come to accept it formally, as is proper. The Viridian seemed pleased by this. Yes. I will come to your main command center in 1 hour. Prepare for my arrival. When the call ended, Lieutenant Ha-Yun turned to Taiwan. They're taking the bait. The main ship is moving into low orbit. Is the heap driver ready? Taiwan asked. Dr. Sunmi nodded. Yes, but we only have 1 shot. If we miss, we won't. Miss? Taiwan said firmly. 1 hour later, they all stood on the roof of the Earth Defense Force headquarters. A small Viridian ship was descending from the sky. Above it, barely visible through the clouds, hung the massive Viridian command ship. Heap driver locked on target, Lieutenant Ha-Yun said quietly into her radio. Ready to fire on your command. The small ship landed, and High Commander Vextor stepped out with 4 other Viridians. They were all bigger than the ones Taiwan had met before, and their skin glowed with power and technology. You are wise to surrender, the High Commander said, as he approached. Your planet has much we need. Your people will be treated fairly as long as you cooperate. General Doyan stepped forward. Before we surrender, we have 1 question. Ask it, the Viridian said. Do you still think our weapons are primitive? The High Commander made that now familiar laughing sound. Yes. Your 1 special weapon was impressive, but we know you used all 3. You have nothing left. He pointed to the sky. And now we have 3 more ships, each stronger than the ones you destroyed. Taiwan looked the alien directly in the eyes. You're right. We did use all 3 heap drivers last time. He paused. But we built 3 more. The Viridian skin color changed suddenly. You lie. Do we? General Doyon asked. She lifted her radio. Fire. Deep underground, the repaired heap driver fired its single shot. The small bullet, no bigger than a marble, shot up through a hidden tunnel and into the sky. It moved so fast that no one saw it, but everyone heard the result. A massive explosion lit up the sky. The Viridian command ship, which had been hovering above them, split in half. Fire and debris rained down, safely away from the city. High Commander Vextor stared at the sky in shock. Impossible. Not impossible, Taewon said. Just unexpected, like last time. The other 2 heap drivers are aimed at your remaining ships, General Doyon lied smoothly. They will fire in 1 minute unless you order all Viridian ships to leave Earth system immediately. The High Commander's skin had turned pale. He lifted a device from his belt and spoke into it rapidly in his own language. Above them, the remaining Viridian ships began to move. They were rising higher away from Earth. You win, the High Commander said finally. We will leave. And never return, Taewon added. Or send any other ships. Or we will find them just like we found your hidden devices. The Viridian looked at each human with new respect. We have traveled to 1,000 worlds. Taken resources. From hundreds. Never have we been defeated twice. He bowed his head slightly. Earth will be marked in our star charts as too dangerous to approach. The High Commander returned to his small ship. As it rose into the sky, Lieutenant Hyun turned to Taewon. Do you think they'll keep their word this time? She asked. I think so, Taewon replied. They've learned an important lesson. What's that? Professor Junho asked. Taewon smiled as he watched the Viridian ships becoming small dots in the distance. Never judge a species by their technology. Judge them by what they can do with it. General Doyon nodded. And never laugh at someone else's weapons until you know what they can really do. As the last Viridian ship disappeared from view, humans around the world began to celebrate. They had faced their first alien threat and survived. Not because they had the most advanced technology, but because they had been underestimated. And because they had never given up. Captain Taewon Park looked up at the stars, wondering what other aliens might be out there. Next time, Earth would be ready, and no one would laugh at their weapons again.